Very much for joining. And in case you have some questions, just interrupt me, or if I'm too fast, please just raise your hand or or interrupt me. So I just want to talk about today about tokenizing real estate. That's what we are doing in our consultancy company here in Barcelona. And in general, I don't want to talk about us. I want to talk about tokenizing. And before I talk about tokenizing, let's say I want to talk to you about securitization. You probably have heard this before. If not, I just explained to you. Securitization is just converting the rights to a traditional asset. That can be real estate. That can be. By the way, can you please switch off your microphone because I'm always hearing a noise. Or well, I just put on my earphones. So okay. So is just you convert a real asset like real estate or like gold, for example, or some other assets which you cannot trade easily. You convert them into paper which you can, it's like a contract which then you can trade at traditional markets. And wait a second, chat here. Yes, of course, you can. Okay, so you at securitization, you convert an asset into a paper which you can more easily trade. You know, like shares or like certificates. You can trade them on a regulated or ordinary market. So tokenization is more or less the same. You also convert a real asset into some paper. In this case, it's not paper, it's a token on a blockchain. And this advantage is then you can then trade it. You can trade it on a regulated market. Oh, wait, I have to record it. Oh, wait a second. How can I record it? Somebody asks me to record it. Record. Okay, good. I'm recording it. So tokenization is like, oh, I need to request permission. So I cannot. Okay, let me, I don't know. I cannot record it. Let's continue with this because I don't only have half an hour. Wait a second. I have to mute everybody here. So at tokenization, you also convert a real asset into some paper. In this case, it's token. So you can trade it on a secondary market. In this case, it's a blockchain. And before I go into this tokenization, I just want to explain that there are 3 types of tokens around on the blockchain. You probably have heard them. I just want to repeat it so that you know what we are talking about. And these are, you see the 3 icons on the screen. You see we have 3 tokens. One is utility tokens. You can convert them. They give you a right. They give you a right for utilities. This can be, for example, a service. This can be, I don't know, storage on the internet. This can be a right to play a game. You know, this can be converted into something you can use. You know, it's a utility token. Then you have the security token. That's what I was just talking about. This gives you the right to an asset. So you have access to the asset. You, in theory, can convert this token into the real asset. You know, like you say, I give you a token or a paper that you own a piece of gold, and if you convert this, you want to have the gold, the piece of gold, and you come to me with the paper and you get the piece of gold, okay, or real estate asset or whatever it is. And then the third kind of tokens is currency tokens. These are tokens which are just the only purpose is to be a store of value, like in this case Bitcoin. Everybody knows Bitcoin. Bitcoin has no other value than store of value, but in this it is very good. Okay, And these are the three kind of tokens or coins which exist on the blockchain. Well, some smaller others, but these are the main tokens. And we want to talk now only about these security tokens. So tokens which give you the right to an asset. Okay, so let's look at what happens when you tokenize an asset. So you convert it into some paper, in this case not paper, into a token which can be traded on the blockchain. What kind of advantages it has that right now you don't have you instead of having the asset, the real estate asset, you then have a paper. So one big advantage is you have greater liquidity, which means you can more easier buy and sell or transfer this token or this part of the asset, because it's traded on a blockchain. You know, it's much easier to sell a token on a blockchain than a part of a real estate of a house, for example. No, so this is it's very obvious that this is one of the big advantages. No, and the second, well, you don't have intermediaries, and it's much easier to sell it. So if you can offer somebody easier a token than a real estate asset, okay? Because this person can easier exit. The exit is much easier, okay? The second advantage is, of course, it's better accessible, because instead of one big chunk, you know, one bar of gold or one big house, which costs a lot of money, you can buy a fraction of it, and you can buy every month a bit, no? And you can access many more people, because it requires much less investment than the whole asset, of course. Yeah, then we have higher accessibility. Blockchain also gives you more transparency, because in blockchain all transactions are tracked. You have the complete record of ownership. You know, the time of sale. You have when you distribute revenue, you have the pattern of revenue distribution. All this is also good for regulators, because regulators need to know what's going on with assets and with money, with the flow of money in this case. You know? So this is also an advantage. What I mentioned before is that you don't have intermediaries. Banks, brokers, stock exchanges. You also have then 24 hours trading, because the blockchain is always open. The computers are always on. You know, you don't have these regular trading hours. You can buy and sell whenever you want. So this helps as an advantage. And then lately, of course, since there are no intermediaries, it's much cheaper and faster to transmit. And somebody please, can I mute the people? I don't know how this is possible. Mute everyone.
Yes, possible. Please go ahead.
Wait, let me mute this guy, Subi. I have to mute. I cannot mute Subi, whatever. Okay, doesn't matter. Well, 1 second. Okay, so transactions are, of course, much faster and much cheaper than on a normal exchange. Okay, and then there's another thing. This is the general advantages of tokenization. But if you look from the investor standpoint, of course, these are all advantages. But since the access requires much less money, then for example, if I wanted to invest, let's say, I don't know, 100,000 into real estate, maybe I can buy one apartment. And with tokenization, now you can participate in various apartments all over the globe, and this gives you a spread of risk, because according to portfolio theory, if you diversify, the risk goes down by the same outcome, or the same let's say profit, or you increase profit by the same risk. So it gives you the possibility to diversify and to have a portfolio in real estate instead of only focusing on one. That's many times the problem when somebody wants to invest in real estate. It says, well, which apartment do I buy? Because this is I only can buy one, and with this you can really diversify, and maybe you can participate in 100 without having to go through a fund which has a lot of costs like fund management and transactions costs, blah blah blah. You know, so these are the advantages from the investor standpoint. So where is this? Where does it make sense? At which kind of industries does it make sense to tokenize? And of course, the most obvious one is the financial industry. I mentioned it already. For example, it exists already, but not as in the blockchain. It exists, for example, ETFs on gold. So you have some funds which tell you they buy gold for you. You don't have to have it, and you give them money, and then they give you a paper, and this paper gives you the right to have this part of gold what you paid for. And this is very common in finance, and this could also be extended to be within tokens, not only ETF but also for tokens. And this has not been done yet because of regulation, of course, because the finance industry is very highly regulated. This also makes sense, but in this case, what I'm just saying is this is one of the industries where it really makes sense to tokenize. Another industry, and this is where I want to talk more about it, is real estate. Real estate, what I said already, we have large, very expensive assets, and you give with this the possibility that people can then participate with small amounts in an asset, that it's more liquid, then you can trade it, and then you can interchange it, and so on. So real estate is really one of the very big markets which is suitable for tokenization. Another industry is healthcare. We had a customer who what he had, they had an app, and then also we introduced some tokens where people got let's say they got tokens for living healthy, for doing more sports, for moving more, for having a healthy life. And the more healthier they live, for example, the more they walk, because they have a sensor on their watch, on their phone, the more tokens they get, and then they get some benefits from some insurance companies, for example. So I don't know, they get a watch, or they get some other things as incentives the more they move. So these tokens, they can be used as incentives in the healthcare industry. And of course, here it makes there's also a privacy issue, because you don't want everybody to know your health habits, well, your habits and your health status. But the point is, this incentive based on tokens, using tokens for this, there's a big it's a big market. Another market, and we have this here in Barcelona, is sports. Barca, the football club, recently sold about 40 million Barca coins, each one at €2, to their fans. And what these coins are able to do, you can of course trade them. What I told already, you have a secondary market, and they're very liquid, blah blah. But the point is that since they are on blockchain and they are on Ethereum, and Ethereum not only provides you a coin so that you show the ownership, but it also provides you the possibility to build put some intelligence into these coins. That's why they're called smart contracts. So you can, for example, establish a voting system. And in this case, Barca offers their fans who have the coins to vote for the music which is played in the stadium whenever Barca scores a goal. Okay, so you can create some certain kind of interaction between your fans or the people who buy the coins and you, by having intelligent coins, which then the more coins you have, the more votes you have, for example. No, but you have to buy the coins, of course. No, another industry is, of course, companies. Companies, it's a huge thing. You can, for example, similar to the healthcare, you can create some incentive systems. So people get more coins. I don't know, the more, the better they treat each other, or they I don't know, on certain goals. Whenever they achieve goals and they get some coins instead of money, they get coins, and then these are rewards, and then they can be exchanged by some gifts or some trips or some travel incentives. So this is another area. But now we want to talk about real estate. That's what I told you. That's the title of this talk, and it's also where I'm more experienced in real estate. And how does this work with real estate? So you usually have a full ownership, and that's what I told you already. Then after tokenizing, you have many people who have tokens, and these tokens represent the participation in a share in the real estate asset, a house or whatever it is. And this is like shares in a company or in another property. You know, the point here is, and the big problem what we have is that the registry, all the registries all over the world, where the owners are usually written down, they are can claim to be the owner. These registries, they accept shared ownership if many owners then are in the registry registered, but they don't accept tokenized ownership. You know, so and whenever, and also what you could do, of course, put all the owners who has a token into the registry, but whenever somebody sells the token to someone else, you have to go to the registry with a notaire and make the change in the registry, which is very expensive. And all the advantages, what I told you before, it's speedier, it's more liquid, and more, you know, all these things, they don't exist anymore, because you always have to run to registry and make the change there. So the problem here is, if you want to maintain all these advantages, you need to bypass the registry, and you have to have some, I don't know, some special vehicle, let's say a company which is the owner of the house, and people have shares in the company, or people, I don't know, it's a group, and this group is, as an institution, is the owner of the real estate asset, and all together they within the group, they decide who is taking decisions in the registry, regarding to the registry. You know, but so legally, all this fractional ownership through tokens is not backed. You need to have it. You need to use a company which, or one person who is the owner of the real estate asset, and then with them have private contracts in a jurisdiction where these owners can enforce their rights to get a part of the real estate asset, and then it works. But of course, it works outside of the registry. It works as private contracts, and then you can have it. Okay, and we had in 2018 already. We had in 2018 the first building in Manhattan, which was tokenized with blockchain. They made it similar to what I said, a bit different, but this was a very first. Well, this is from Forbes, but it was also Bloomberg. This was a big hype then, and then I will talk later about why this is not going on much more, why it's not, why there are not so many tokenized real estate assets after this one. But let me just explain to you how we are doing it here in Barcelona. This is also a possibility with an intermediary. Okay, how to bypass the not bypass, how to solve the issue with the registry. So what we have a developer. We have a customer of us who is developing real estate, and he is he needs to finance the development of the buildings, of the real estate assets, and he needs financing. Of course, he could go to a bank, but he needs some initial finance. So what he is doing, he's asking for small investors, asking them for capital, and you see them on the bottom, the small investors, and then they send money through a normal bank transfer to an escrow account, where there is a notaire who sends money to the developer according to the advancements in the building process. So whenever the house is, or the building from the developer is advanced enough and the value increases, the notaire frees more money, and the developer gets more money to buy the architect, materials, providers, etc. And with this, at least you are assured that that not at the first day when the developer gets all the money, that he runs away and is in the Caribbean island, for example, with all the money, so that only the money is freed according to the advances in the real estate asset. Actually, this is something which is very common. Besides the tokenization, this has nothing to do with the tokenization, that you only free money when you when the asset appreciates according to the work of the developer. But this is in this case, it's even more important, because here you are not, the investors are not registered in the registry as a shared owner of the apartment, but in this case it's the developer who is the owner of the real estate asset, and he has private legal obligation, of course, to pay them back to the small investors the capital plus interest. And so it's a private contract the developer has with the small investors, and the small investors, they get some smart contracts. These are the contracts which tell them that they are the legal owner of a share of the property. And in this case, it's us who are issuing these smart contracts, but in the name of them. We are not the intermediary. That's what I want to just to make sure. And so our customer is issuing these smart contracts. So every investor then has a smart contract according to his or her shares. And then they can, of course, in a secondary market, they can exchange these smart contracts between each other, because if somebody before the project ends needs some money and needs to sell some of these smart contracts, he or she can then sell these smart contracts to others and liquidate them. No? That's the advantage of the tokenization of the blockchain tokens. So I mentioned already before that it exists for several years already, this tokenization, but why didn't it take off yet? Okay, so the main problem is that as I told you already, these tokenized assets, they are not legally established. You know, the regulator does not accept tokens on the blockchain, so you need to always circumvent it. You need to always to find another solution with a company or with hello, somebody on with a company or with an organization. And so the tokenization requires new regulation. Until then, you need to find, of course, this possibility. You do this with a company, intermediate company, but many people don't trust this. Okay. And many people don't accept to have a company there, and that's why it hasn't take off yet. Once this will happen, of course, I'm sure many people will go into this way because it has a lot of advantages. Also, tokenization only makes sense if it's a low liquid asset. It doesn't make sense when an asset is already liquid. You know, it doesn't make sense for shares, for example, of a company which are already traded on a stock exchange, of course. No? And then another thing is here we eliminate all the intermediaries, and this, since it sounds well because it's more cheaper. Others, on the other hand, some people want to have intermediaries because this gives them some kind of security, safety. You know, if there is somebody who looks over it, then you feel more safe, you know, than if there's nobody in between, you know, nobody in between. Then another thing is tokenized assets. There is no established market, you know, there is no like a stock exchange which is regulated like a New York Stock Exchange or some other exchanges. It doesn't exist. We created some markets for our tokens. Of course, you can do that on the blockchain, but it's not a regulated market, and you know, and you always have to work to create liquidity. You always have to offer some bid and ask spreads and all these things. So in order to make it comparable to a normal, very liquid market, you need a lot of infrastructure. And right now, nobody is creating this infrastructure to create a market similar to the stock exchanges, because well, it costs a lot of money, and right now it's not feasible. You know? And also all these entrepreneurs in the crypto field, they always wanted to make the big a lot of big money, and they always wanted to, when they entered into this area, tokenization of assets, I realized that they always came up with a solution to offer their own coin, because they wanted their own coin to be bought by others, you know. And in this case, it doesn't make sense. You don't need another coin. You just need the coin of the real estate developer or the owner of the real estate asset. He has to issue some coins, and that's it. You don't need another coin. And so many solutions I've seen where they want to push people to buy their asset, their coin, because they want to make big money. You know, that's, instead of helping them to tokenize their asset, they want to only sell their coin. And in most of the cases, it doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't make sense to introduce another coin when you have already the coin of the token of the real estate asset. You know, and I think that's one of the reasons why these entrepreneurs, they stepped back and they said, oh, we cannot make much money here, so we are not interested. You know, because we only would be interested if we could sell our own coin, you know, our ABC coin or whatever, or Bitcoin Platinum or whatever these coins are. And another thing is all this KYC and AML, you know, the know your customer, AML, all the regulations you have to follow. It's a lot of hassle. It's a lot of paperwork, but this is required. And this is, of course, many people, many entrepreneurs, they don't want this. They just hide this. And these are the reasons why it didn't take off yet. Oh, I'm a bit late, so very fast. Okay, so closing by this, if you always whenever you see an offering of tokenizing of assets, don't close the door. Look deep into it and look how it is realized. Usually, it's realized by an SPV, so a special purpose vehicle, a company in between, or it's an intermediary. But then, of course, look that it's in a regulated jurisdiction. You know, not in any offshore country, or I don't know, in any country where you never get your money back. So, which is what happens many times when we're talking about blockchain assets. And and have a lawyer look about this, because here legal things are very important, because you need to know how to get your asset once, because if you have a token, you don't have you need to know what kind of rights to have to get access to your asset. And also when there are intermediaries, who are selling you these assets, so it's not the developer himself, but it's an intermediary, please please make sure that the intermediary is regulated. In the United States, it's the SEC, or in Spain, it's the CNMV. So they regulate the market so that not anyone runs away with your money. Okay, I'm over. I'm sorry. I wanted to talk a bit more about this, but if you have some questions, just send me an email or call me about this. Or if you want to tokenize an asset, real estate or a company or whatever, write down my email address and send me an email or call me whenever you want. Thank you very much for your patience, and I'm over, except if you have some questions, you can send me questions now in the chat. Otherwise, I think I'm over, because now the next speaker has to talk, and yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Jose. That was a very useful presentation. Thank you.
Who's talking now?
Yeah, I'm just one of the attendees.
Okay. Okay.
I've been silent the whole time because I was really just absorbing it as we went along.
Okay. Well, I have no way. I don't. What's your name? The name? Last name? You're.
It's Tulpule.
Ayinka. I see you. Okay, Ayinka.
And I just saw the question, which is interesting because it is true. I am based in Luxembourg, and there is a question in the chat room right now about tokenization as a security asset is in the Luxembourg legislation, which was an amendment passed a year or so ago.
In Luxembourg, it's possible to have tokens on a blockchain, and these give you the legal rights to access the asset. You don't need to be in the registry, or the registry is tokenized?
The registry is not tokenized, as far as I understand it. And I'll be honest, I'm not an expert in this. But there was an amendment to the legislation that created a new, well, basically legally recognized tokenized securities.
Yeah, but through another company, right? Through an SPV, I assume.
I'll be honest, I don't know.
Okay, I will investigate. I will have a look.
Yeah,
we are in Spain. In Spain, things are a bit more slowly. You know, they say mañana, mañana. So it's not so fast. Okay. So yeah, but if someone, I see a question here. Yeah, we have some examples which are live. Yes, we have. As I said, we have a customer in. We have a customer who's. I just put you the website of our customer, where we are the technology provider. We are not the intermediary. So we are not giving you the tokens. We are helping our customer to issue the tokens, and the customer is selling the tokens or offering the tokens to his investors. And thank you for the Luxembourg home to real estate successful. Okay, I will look into it. Thank you very much for the Julie. Thank you very much for the text. I will look into it afterwards. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, I think. Well, I would continue if you want, but I think there is somebody else who has to who's continuing now, right? I don't know the schedule. Let me see the schedule.